Hello, I'm Bobby Graham, also known as Slobodanka Vasilkovic. 50 years ago this year, I finished school in 1973 at Good Hope High. And not only are we celebrating 50 years of us having left school, or my school year, but it's also the 150th anniversary of the existence of Good Hope High. So I've written this little piece which I'd like to read for you. It's called Between the Mountains and the Sea. This year, we celebrate 150 years of Good Hope Seminary High. I was fortunate to be in matric in 1973, 50 years ago, when we celebrated the school centenary. My school meant a great deal to me then, and it still does now. Whenever we sang our school song, I was filled with a sense of comfort, belonging, and identity. I felt empowered and protected, nestled in our school buildings between the mountains and the sea. In 1969, at the start of Standard 6, I was impressed and intimidated by the confident senior girls. Everything was big. The school uniform, "You'll grow into it," promised the Cleghorn sales lady, bought a size big enough for at least 2 years of wear. The school buildings were big. Finding my classroom was challenging. The grounds were big, but how we loved the lawns and the shade under the trees near the swimming pool. I was proud of my uniform, cheese cutters in summer, bowler hats in winter. While I balked at putting on a uniform every day, I was proud to wear it on school outings. Ours was what I imagined to be a traditional British-style school for girls. Uniforms, textbooks, wooden desks, discipline, and punishment if we stepped out of line. We attended assembly every morning, which we all found a little trying, but I loved singing the hymns. The school outings were always a joy. Catching the double-decker bus to play netball against Weinberg girls, marching out of the school grounds 2 by 2. I loved the sense of freedom playing tennis after school. Even the swimming lessons were liberating. I was at times a reluctant scholar, but I enjoyed certain classes. Mrs. Maltese in her new science lab, Miss Stephen Jennings and her modern style of teaching English literature, seating us in a half circle instead of the usual row of desks. I was intrigued by Miss Leakis's underground art room filled with exotic art materials. We didn't have much choice of subjects. Mine was the standard suite of English, Afrikaans, maths, which I dropped at the end of Standard 8, biology, history, and Latin, which I took for the full 5 years, and English literature to replace the maths. While I wasn't always fond of all my teachers and all the lessons, I understood the teachers' desire. They wanted the best for us. They were caring in their own way and worked us hard. School wasn't an easy endeavour. We were driven to be top students. These are some of the teachers that I remember. Miss Abramson for English, Miss Stephen Jennings for English literature, Miss Potter for maths, Mrs. Mann for history, Mrs. Moller for Latin, Miss Leakis for art, Mrs. Maltese for science, Mrs. McCall for science, Miss Trangmar, later Watts, for maths, Mrs. Goodman for drama, Miss Skolny for home economics, Miss Hawes for gym, Miss Parman for home economics, and Miss Charlton, our principal, for scripture. Even though I was a reluctant scholar, the school must have recognized some leadership qualities in me, as I was captain of the under-30 netball team. I was elected a junior town councillor. I was the house captain for Juritz Marais, and I was a prefect. At the end of Standard 10, after 5 full and eventful years at Good Hope High, I walked out of the school grounds after the last exam. School was my whole world. What now? I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to do with my life. All I knew was that I was going to UCT the following year. What did I learn at school? I don't remember many details, but I know I learned about good values, good manners, and the strength of connection. I made friends for life. I had spent 12 years at Good Hope Junior and Good Hope High. That meant something then, and it still means something now, as I commemorate and celebrate 50 years since matriculating. Constantia et virtute.